It's 40k terrain time. Marcus Cruz at Terrain for Print gave me the opportunity to print and paint his new Kickstarter, Domina Ferrum. It's a Gothic style ruin set that can be put together as a big huge whole model or in ruin sections like I've done here. So let's get painting. I wanted the buildings to have kind of a combination look of the new aesthetic that Games Workshop does and the old Hammer look. So I spray painted everything bluish grey with wolf grey spray from Army Painter. And then I set to magnetize the whole kit. So I just super glued and put some 5mm magnets there and used a hammer to hammer them in because the holes were a little bit snug. But that worked really well, and they sit like, they sit there. And the great thing about this is all the floors have different stages of ruination. So if you magnetize them, you can make the building a whole building, or you can have these more ruined top parts that you can exchange for. Even in games, you could have like the opportunity to destroy buildings and have them ruined like this. So that's a really cool feature in this kit, I think. The top parts for the ruined parts are the same, so I glued that on top. Here you can see how they all fit together. You just push them together. You don't need magnets for that, so it's really easy to set up. Painting, I started with some Steel Legion drab from Games Workshop. I'm using their airbrush paint here because it flows really nicely and it has good coverage. And for terrain, I tend to lean towards using the airbrush paints and contrast paints if I can. And all the windows and the architectural features here were picked out in this color to create a nice contrast to the blue-gray here. I try to be as neat as I can with the brush here. Mistakes can be hidden later with washes and the weathering powders and all stuff like that, but be as neat as you can and if you have the time. For the stone flooring, I used Mechanica Standard Grey from Games Workshop. The smaller areas were painted by brush, like you see here, and for the bigger areas I kind of spray painted a little bit of it to save time, and then used the brush to tighten it up when the floors meet the walls and stuff like that. For the metal bars sticking out of the concrete here where it's been ruined, I just use a black airbrush primer and pick them out neatly, and later on they're gonna have some rust on them, so they're gonna be covered up, but black is good for making it look like corrugated iron here. And then my standard magic trick, the beige dry brush. I'm just making sure to wipe off just enough paint to make it last a little bit, so I don't have to dip the brush too often, but not too much paint so that it gets on the flat areas. You just want it to hit the edges of everything. So just practice to get the exact amount here, but I make mistakes sometimes, but with some practice you get it right. And this beige paint just works on everything. It's weird, but it works on the blue-gray and it works on the brown here and it works on the gray, so it's perfect. It ties everything together and it makes everything kind of pop here. So I'm just doing piece by piece here, and then when all the pieces are done, I usually put everything together and then do a pass over the whole model to make everything kind of the same starkness of the dry brush. I just make sure that no piece is lighter or darker than any other piece. So just go over everything carefully here and just add and make it look like a whole building. All the metal parts I just painted with an airbrush paint of Lead Belcher from Games Workshop, just covering everything the pipes and the little boxes and the radiators and the computer screens and stuff like that. I just paint everything with metal here. There's endless opportunities to make these a little bit more different, but for time's sake, I just painted everything metal here, and it's gonna be really rusty and stuff like that, so it doesn't matter. I just use the Scrag Brown paint from Games Workshop that I dilute heavily, and sometimes I mix in a little bit of an orange wash into it, and I just paint this on all the metal parts, just dabbing it on and making it flow into the recesses and where rust would appear, and just try to make it look really cool. Then it's time for the oil wash. This time I'm using oil paint mixed with white spirits to a very thin consistency, and just washing it all over. Sometimes you can spray everything with varnish before to protect the paint job, but I don't find that's necessary all the time, so this time I just slapped it on, just painting it on everything, and really being careful to not miss any parts here. This gets into everything, all the holes and all the cracks and crevices, so be neat and just let it flow here. It's a very cheap and very effective shading method, and I'm using gloves here because it gets everywhere, but it has to dry for 24 hours. But it's so nice, you can wipe it off, you can wash all the terrain at once and then wipe off the excess, and then you can go back with a Q-tip or a cotton pad with the white spirits and remove everything you don't like. So it's a perfect shading method, but sometimes I can't bother with the old paint because it's the drying time is a little bit long. But this time I thought it would be really nice, and I think just ruins are perfect for this. So just wiping off all the excess and then letting it dry for 24 hours before I continue with the rest of the paint job. And when it's dry, I just do a white dry brush all over everything, just to pick out the edges. This is a much lighter dry brush than the one before, less paint on the brush, and mostly trying to hit the edges of everything, and mostly trying to dry brush from above. So this just is the final pop for the model, just to make it really bright in the edges and having it have a really high contrast. And it doesn't matter if this gets on the metal parts, it looks really good anyway, so don't worry about that. Once again, I'm putting the model together and checking it to see if the highlights are the same all over, and adding a little bit if it's not consistent. The last stage of the painting process is the weathering powders. I've mixed up orange and brown mix here from pigment powders, and I'm just using an old brush here to add it into the corners where the floors meet the walls and where there are like damaged holes in the floors, and just put that on liberally, but not too much because it really tints everything. So be careful where you put it, but it's fun, and just try to experiment here and use different colors. I'm using this to contrast with the gray, but greens and blacks and stuff like that is really nice when using weathering powders. So this is a really fun stage. I recommend you getting some and just trying it out. It looks so good. The last part were the reliefs that you can put into the panels of the buildings. These come in a lot of different sizes and with different motifs. I chose a Grim Reaper motif here, and I sprayed them with Rune Lord brass spray and shaded them with Agrex Earth Shade from Games Workshop, and let them dry for quite a long time. And then I used some Nihilok oxide to put the verdigris on them because I think that looks really good on bronze. So I always dilute that with water and then put it on in a few different stages, let it dry, and then put it in some more if you think you need it, because weathering is done in stages. In my opinion, it's better than to slap on a huge amount at once. So just do a little bit and let it dry, and then do some more if you need it. And after painting these, I just used some super glue to glue them into place. You can see where they fit easily, and you have a lot of different sizes, but I chose only these bigger ones. And here's the finished result. A really cool sci-fi gothic ruined building, perfect for any game of 40k or whatever sci-fi battle game you prefer. I hope you like it.